What's up, everybody? Welcome to Gamescast now, episode 84, topic 3. I'm Alex, and this is our conversational gaming show, a show that normally airs every other week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but for this week, we've been having loads of topics, and we're going to be continuing to have loads of topics discussing E3 2019, where we're going over games that could be announced, games that should be announced, all sorts of things E3 2019 related, leading up to our E3 coverage, where we're going to be talking about the stuff that gets announced at E3, and then for the summer, pretty much, basically, once E3 is over, we'll be talking a lot about the games that are announced, getting ready for the fall in gaming, and really next year, next generation of consoles, all that stuff. But for this video, I wanted to double back to a video I did a couple months ago talking about Bioshock 4, or just the next Bioshock game in general. I want to talk about if it's going to be announced at E3 2019. Now, in that video, I just talked about when it'll be announced, when it'll be released, how far off are we looking from 2K Games, this secret studio that there has been, news that's broke, not since that video, but just in general over the past couple of years, that they had been hiring, that they are in full, scale production of the next Bioshock game. Obviously, this is without Ken Levine, the maker of Bioshock. He is working on his own game with a brand new studio that hopefully one day we'll actually be able to see what that game is as well. Obviously, I think the influences and the talent that really went into making Bioshock 1, 2, and Infinite so amazing, I think they're obviously in Ken Levine's head and with his team, and so whenever we get that game, that'll be amazing as well. One of the questions obviously would be how well they could do a Bioshock game, 2K Games, without Ken Levine, but the bigger question is, when the heck are we getting this announcement? And could it happen at E3 2019? I feel like it's possible. I feel like this game is enough of the way, finished, and not by a mile am I saying that the game is actually done, but is the game in a state, a condition that's able to be shown? And I think based off of what we have gotten with a ton of other games in the past, and studios arguably making the mistakes of showing their games when they were not ready or way too early in development, which we've seen all throughout and with all different publishers and all different developers. We've seen Sony make that mistake with games. We've seen Square Enix make that mistake, games like Kingdom Hearts. We've seen EA make that mistake, games like Dragon Age 4 that was announced at the Game Awards, which we kind of had heard later on, like they've barely just begun and things are being reworked and they're trying to make it possibly like a live service like Anthem kind of deal, and they got no idea what's going on, but we saw a teaser. So can the game get announced? Well, yeah, absolutely. It could still be 4 years away and it could still get announced because they can just show a very small snippet. They can do kind of the thing they did with Infinite where they showed, the sky and how this, firstly they showed Rapture and then obviously it moved up to the city in the sky. They did that. They could do something like that, even less than that, even less time in terms of a trailer time. They could do that with the next Bioshock game and kind of just tell us the area, because one of the things that does make Bioshock so special is where it's taken place. That generally tends to come up in the story in very big scale. Obviously, Rapture played a really, really big story in Bioshock and even Bioshock Infinite, but the setting of the games and normally who had made wherever you are, normally that comes up pretty big. So I do think that if they do show us the setting, if they show us where it's taking place, if it's a new area, if it's an old area, whatever, at least we kind of get a sense of what's going on and we can speculate as to what the story is after. They don't technically have to have everything done. They don't have to show us gameplay. They can just show us where the place is, and I think that's a very high possibility. And again, I think also the fact that the rumors of them having a full team, right, having a full team, full production on this game, and they have been working on it for quite a bit. I do feel like there's a time where this should definitely happen. And I think it's quite obvious, or at least it should be quite obvious, that any game that's kind of going on now, any game that's going to get a trailer and say this is a brand new game, but we're not ready to really show a ton of it, games that are more than even a year out, I'd say a year is the absolute max cap to it, those games are next generation games. Now, that does, I feel like, make it more tricky to announce, right? Because if you announce this next Bioshock game at E3, are you going to do it in your own trailer? Are you going to put out the press release yourself? Are you going to be on Microsoft's show and say it's coming out? And if you do, you have to assume that with the Xbox Scarlet or whatever the next generation is, they're going to announce it at their press conference, but it probably won't come out till next fall of 2020. Does that then Bioshock game say we're coming out on the next generation of Xbox, whatever they call it. And then later on, we hear, oh yeah, it's also coming out on PS5. But PS5 isn't announced yet, so you can't say your game is coming out with that, on that system. We had that problem back in this last generation as well. When PS4 and Xbox One were getting ready, they couldn't say, and not just Bioshock, but any publisher, any even developer, they couldn't say that their game is coming out on blank system name because it wasn't announced, it wasn't confirmed yet. So they had to kind of wait for it, or when Sony showed it, they could say that they were coming out on PS4, and then eventually they added Xbox One once the Xbox One was announced, and so on. I feel like we're going to see a lot of that, a lot of history repeating itself again. Bioshock could be announced, it could say it's on the Xbox Scarlet, and then when PS5 gets announced, whenever that is, they say, oh yeah, it's also coming out on PS5. Again, Bioshock is in a little bit of a different state because I don't think that this game is coming out within the next year and a half at all. I feel like it's a game that's 2+ years away. And when it comes to that, then the decision just becomes, do you announce the game this early in production, or do you wait, for a later date? I think it changes with games that are coming out like next fall. Like the next Assassin's Creed game is going to be very tricky for Ubisoft to announce because you have to kind of wait for the next generation, because they're going to say it's cross-platform, you can play it on PS4, but then it's enhanced on PS5, and yada yada. So games like that, games that are kind of you expect to release in the fall of 2020, the next Call of Duty game after this year's, the 2020 Call of Duty game, maybe the next Battlefield, Battlefield, whatever they want to call it, those are the games that are going to be in that tricky, situation. Bioshock only gets put in that tricky situation if it's coming out next fall. Now, if you've watched the channel, if you watched me in videos or heard me in videos enough, you know that I'm a big fan of announcing your game and it coming out within 6 to 8 months. I always kind of say that, 6 to 8 months. Obviously, Sony does some stuff different. I love PlayStation. I'm a PlayStation fan. Sony tends to announce, especially their exclusives, they do announce them way before the games actually come out, normally 1-2+ years. And I generally don't have as much of a problem with that. Maybe it's just because I am a fan of them, I'm a supporter of them, and I want those games. But for general AAA games or any game that's not a Sony exclusive, I tend to want the game to come out within 12 months of the announcement. So if Bioshock does get announced, I do not think it's coming out within a year. Maybe it surprises me, maybe it does, but I think all rumors tend to indicate it's a next-gen game. So the question again becomes, if they announce it, will it come, what are they going to do? Are they going to say it comes out for the Xbox Scarlet? Do they wait till after E3? Is this not an E3 reveal, but maybe a fall reveal from them? Bioshock is a big enough game and a big enough name that they can say and they can announce their press release about this game on their own. They can do a Borderlands thing. Borderlands is a big enough game. Borderlands 3. Yes, they use PAX East, but they also had obviously their own kind of conference. Just in terms of when I'm recording this, yesterday, where they showed the first really big amount of gameplay for that, which was back in early May, if you guys know what I'm talking about. So they're a big enough name where they can do that, and Gearbox Software obviously is a big enough name also in the industry world where they can do that. I do think 2K and I do think Bioshock are big enough names where they can end up on a Game Informer, where they can come out and just have their own trailer one day and press release and have all these people that have said it's real. I think they're a big enough company and big enough property with Bioshock that they can do it. So it's going to be interesting. I feel like the odds, and I feel like my answer is no, this game won't be announced at E3 2019, but it could. I think it's probably like an 80-20 odd in my opinion, but I could be very wrong. And guys, because of the focus of Gamescast now on games, I want to quickly talk about, in the description below, there's a link to Gamefly. And Gamefly, obviously, if you guys know what that is, it is a service where you can rent and actually buy games and movies. The link in the description is for a free trial. It's for a free 30 days. So if you guys are looking to rent any game, you can take out a game or a movie at a time. It's for 30 days. You can rent any game for absolutely free. You can rent multiple games, so you can really get a good value out of that there. It puts you in a subscription service after that, but you guys can opt out of that if you want. So there's no catch really involved. 30 days, you guys can rent and play as many games as you possibly can. Again, the link is in the description below, and if you guys click that and you go through with that, it helps the channel out, and I would very much appreciate it. So guys, let me know in the comments below, when do you think Bioshock 4 or whatever they're going to call it is going to get announced? You think it's at E3 2019, or do you think it's at some other time? Let me know. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now, and hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And thank you as always for watching this video. I hope to see you on future Gamescast topics.